Yoo-hoo, it's Luhu, and I'm Cindy Young, the designer behind Luhu Stitches, and I'm here today for another Flosstube in 15-ish, sort of. Today I'm going to be talking about, I'm actually going to start answering some of those questions that you guys asked me, and I'm talking about how I became a designer, how it all started. I'm going to try and do it in short form because it can get to be a lengthy story. Anyhow, before I do that, what was I going to tell you guys? Oh, I have a finish. I'm really super excited. I think I showed you that I had actually finished stitching this, but I finished it. I fully finished it and put it in a frame that I got from Hobby Lobby. So way back when I first started stitching this, I had intended to put these in some oval frames that were kind of decorator frames from the 40s. And my husband wasn't crazy about that, and then it didn't really fit. But I found these sort of rough wood barn frames at Hobby Lobby. And so now all I have to do is start Ira Crow and finish him, and Ida May will have her partner to sit with. This year, this is getting hung on a wall in my dining room. But for now, I have it right here so you can see it. I want to talk about, I want to talk about a little trick I figured out. So sticky board can be super helpful in finishing, especially framed pieces. But I have more of the board stuff, just plain board stuff, because it can be used for drawing, it can be used for finishing. This is crescent board. Not sure what the weight is on it, but it's a 15 by 20 piece, or it was. It's not anymore. It has an 8 by 8 or 10 by 10, something, 8 by 8 section out of it now. But years ago, or not that long ago, I guess, I had bought this stuff called pattern stick because I was making a costume for my daughter that was using some kind of slick, hard to work with fabric. And I wanted to stick the pattern, rather than pin the pattern, I wanted to stick the pattern on the fabric. I didn't like how this worked with fabric. However, this works great to create your own sticky board. So this is a glue. It's not a super tacky glue. It's got a light tack to it. But you cut out the piece that you want. In this case, I cut out this, I believe it's an 8 by 8 piece. Maybe it's a 9 by 9 piece. And I lightly sprayed it with this. Then when I went to center my piece, I could adjust it and move it around, and it was awesome. So instead of like ending up with a sort of centered piece of fabric, because that's my struggle, is I always end up with a sort of centered piece of fabric. I mean, maybe it's not that noticeable to most people, but I see it. I end up with something I'm really pleased with, and which was the case with Ida May over here. She ended up right in the spot that I wanted her to be in because I could adjust it. Now, I didn't add any padding, but I don't think there's any reason you couldn't spray this over a piece of cotton batting and then try and stick it. Now, I haven't tried it. It might be kind of weird, but anyway, so I bought this at Joann's. It's probably in their Notion section, and it's made by Taylor, and it's called Pattern Stick. So a light tacky spray glue that you can create your own sticky board for. Little tips. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how I got started being a designer. I had a notebook here so that I could really address the questions. So I'm gonna, I had a whole list of questions, but I'm gonna start with some of the questions that Carolyn asked. So Carolyn, hi. She wants to know how my design journey started, how I got started, where do I get my inspiration, and what do I do when I'm stuck for inspiration? So my design journey probably started when I was 3 years old with a box of crayons and a coloring book. And that was always my favorite activity. Always, always. Drawing, art, everything. I enjoyed that the most in school. I did take art classes in high school for a little while. We did not have a strong art department in my high school. So basically you could take drawing and you could take pottery, and that was kind of it. I don't recall if there was a painting class or not. I don't think there was. So that was kind of it for me for high school. And I always participated in arts and crafts all through grammar and middle school. And but they were always in the community I lived in, which was a farming community. It was always kind of looked on as, this is just a hobby that you do. And there's, were lots of hobbies, but nobody talked about art as a career. And I wasn't talked about art as a career or given options for art as a career when I was in high school. It wasn't until I got to college and I had a roommate who was in graphic design that I realized I could apply my talents and my skills and my interests to an actual profession. So I switched majors. I started out as an English major and I switched to graphic design. I went to California State University, Chico. At that time in the 80s, graphic design was under the umbrella of the Communications and Informations Department school. And so my Bachelor of Arts is in Information and Communication Studies with an emphasis in graphic design. Right after college, I got married and we moved to a small rural community where there was not a demand for graphic designers, and I got involved kind of in arts and crafts in toll painting, which was sort of the hot craft of the early 90s. And with my husband and I would go around to craft shows. I did toll painting, lots of cute little things. Oh darn, I meant to have one here, but if I pause, that means it makes it longer for me to upload, and so I'm not going to pause. Anyhow, I did that. Up until I did painting of wood objects, cute little paintings of wood objects, up until I had my first baby in 1995. And even then I still did a little bit. Some of my artwork can still be seen in the town I live in. I did some decorative work for a restaurant here in town that's actually now out of business, but nobody's moved in, so you can still see the decorative artwork. But so that's what I did. And then I had babies and I homeschooled, and I didn't do anything for a long time. I've been cross stitching since the early 90s, when my mom finally got me to try it out. She'd been trying for years, and because she saw the marriage between graphic design and cross stitching long before I did, and she finally got me interested. And I enjoyed cross stitching as a hobby all those years. I mean, I didn't work on a lot of projects, but I enjoyed getting magazines like For the Love of Cross Stitch, and then Country Cross Stitch and Country Crafts, which morphed into, I can't remember, Better Homes and Gardens had it for a while, and then I think in its last years, it was just, I don't know who had it, but it only stopped publishing in the last 5 years, I think. Anyhow, I got magazines, and I did it for fun. And when my kids got older, my husband asked me, because we've been homeschooling for about 8 or 9 years, he said, we're almost done with the schooling thing, the homeschooling thing for 2 of our kids. And he said, what do you want to do next? And I think he was thinking in terms of like retirement. I was thinking in terms of, I got some time before you retire, buddy. So I got to figure out something to do. And I remembered that I had actually tried designing back in the 90s because some of those magazines I mentioned would run contests. And I designed a couple of things but never submitted them. So when I thought about getting into cross stitch design now, in the last 5 years, I realized there were a couple of new opportunities. There were not as many magazines around, but there was Etsy. And Etsy had only just recently made it possible to do PDF instant downloads. And so it was exciting. It was like, oh, wow, I can do this. I know how to make a PDF file, and I know how to, lay out a pattern and do all of that stuff. So that's what I did. But here was my first design, and I think this was from one of the contests, and it was in For the Love of Cross Stitch, which was a Leisure Arts publication. This is under glass, so I'm going to try and get it so that you can see it without glare. I originally designed this for a different song, and when I picked it back up again to kind of do some redesign on it, which I totally missed. I did the rainbow backwards. You can totally flip. If you purchase this design, you can totally flip it and make it. It's not hard. Anyhow, I had designed it for a song, but when I redesigned it, I decided to go with a Bible verse, and it says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that is Hebrews 13:8. This is the sun and moon sampler in my shop if you're interested. But this I would say is like my first real design. First one. And I finally framed it just recently, like in the last year or two. Anyway, so that was my first design. And it started out as a magazine. Carolyn had asked, where do I get my inspiration? That's a hard question because I get my inspiration from a lot of different places. Bible verses and songs can be inspiration. Just scrolling through Pinterest can be inspiration. I actually have a board on one of my Pinterest accounts is called Inspiration. Artists such as Mary Blair and Richard Scarry. You probably remember Richard Scarry from maybe some of your kids' children's books. There's a couple artists and their names are just totally not in my head. England Walsh. I can't think of what Mary England? No. Anyway, she did lots of children's books. England Walsh was the last name, and I can't think of what her first name is. You're probably sitting there going, it's this, Cindy, it's this. I can't hear you. Anyhow, all of those were inspirations to me. Probably they are out of my childhood. I was always really drawn to those kinds of illustrations that told a story, even if it wasn't in a storybook. And then the other thing that would draw me to an illustration would be color. Color has been extremely important for me. You can go and find a, Fiber Talk from June. I was interviewed on Fiber Talk in June, and I talk a lot about color there. So color is a huge inspiration for me. What do I do when I get stuck? I do all of those things, and then I go for a walk, and I do other things. Sometimes you have to get away from the thing that you're concentrating on and let it stew in the back of your mind. And that's what I have to do. I have to get away from what I'm doing and stop thinking about it. It's sort of like I can't see the forest for the trees. I've been concentrating on this one tree so hard, I can't see what I'm struggling with. And so it really helps for me to just get away. So like I clean, I just don't do anything cross stitch related for a few days. I stitch somebody else's stuff. That helps a lot to keep the cross stitch bug, but not have to be thinking about my own designs. I think those are some of the things I do. And then I pray. I'm not kidding. I pray, you know, God, help me. I need an idea. And that helps too. And so I hope that answers your questions, Carolyn. Next time, we're at 15 minutes. So like I said, this is Flosstube in 15-ish this week. Next time I'm going to talk about kind of the nitty-gritty. How do I get from drawing to a cross-stitch chart, and what are some of the tools I use, and so far. Those are questions from Merritt Crawford. So we'll talk about those next week. Once again, don't forget my fundraising piece, There Shall Be Showers of Blessing. Whoa. Sorry, needle. So partially done right here. You can find that on my Etsy shop. I can't talk. I'm in my Etsy shop and on my website, both of which are linked below. There, I said it. Anyhow, you can find this there. And remember, I can give a little bit more money if you buy it from me on my website. So I really, really, really appreciate the people who've already gone and purchased this. I think I've had 5 or 6 purchases so far. So that's awesome. That means we've made about between $50 and $60 that we'll be able to donate to the Red Cross Western Wildfire Fund. And that'll help a lot of people out in the future and now as well. All right, thank you all very much for listening to me go on about my cross stitching, and I hope you have a great week and that you're enjoying your fall, because it's still really warm where we are. If you can't tell, I'm glowing. But that's a hot flash. So anyway, happy stitching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.